Hello and welcome to the 6 Plus Show, a podcast for your wargaming and 40k needs. Hobby talk, tactics, tournament reports, lore and much more. We have it all. Please welcome your host for the evening, Tom.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and warp-spawned denizens to that 6 Plus show. I'm your host, Tom. And I have been playing Age of Sigmar, not 40k this weekend, so I've been in a different Games Workshop land. But we're now diving back into 40k, and I'm very excited because I have one of my good 40k friends here, the one and only Franco McDonald. How you doing, Franco?
Yeah, I'm all good. Yourself?
I am very well. Yes,
very good.
I'm enjoying this grey, rainy Monday.
Yes, it's quite grim.
Safe
it's quite
inside.
grim.
It is rubbish. It's not a particularly nice time of year. This is trying to stave off the seasonal affective disorder or whatever it is. But today we're going to be talking Chaos Demons for State of Play, and I'm quite excited because this is quite an appropriate time to talk about Chaos Demons. I think the book has finally broken through as of like the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah,
really.
It's definitely picking up steam now, I think.
People have started to figure it out. Starting
Yes.
to getting a song out of it. Some big names are playing it, but you yourself have won a GT, is that right, with it quite recently as well?
I've won a GT and 2 RTTs in the last
very cool
4 or 5 weeks. So
a whole bunch of trophies coming Franco's away, so that's good. That's hard earned because you're a long-time Demons fan, as we'll talk about. But
I am.
So I don't think it was obvious when the book came out. It wasn't immediately obvious what people were going to do with it, but as we'll get into in this show, there's some real play in there, and it's a powerful book with some cool tools. And there's definitely lists in there that you can really, really do well within the competitive scene right now. So we'll get into that. But first, perhaps, Franco, you can tell us your sort of Chaos Demons origin story. When did you start playing Chaos Demons for the first time?
When I started in the hobby, so it's coming up about 15 years now, I think.
15
about
years.
15
wow.
years. I think just over 15 years I've been playing 40k, which makes me feel really old, and I'm not even that old. But, yeah, I started. I originally went into my local GW, which had a gigantic space marine on top of it. It was like one of the only ones in the world with it, and it was like instant attraction of that's cool. And then I'm a massive Lord of the Rings fan, so seeing some Lord of the Rings models in the windows drugged me in. But I saw they had one of the old Bellicor models, you know, the one that was like
little baby Bellicor,
and I just saw him. I was like, I wanna play an army with that, and you know, you couldn't actually use him in 40k, but you could use him as a demon prince. And so I instantly went to that. And then when someone said to me like, you can actually use these in fantasy as well, I was like 2 in 1. You know, I can play all the games, and so that's kind of what got me into demons. I started out primarily Zinch because I've always been big on magic and sorcery and wizards and stuff like that. And Pink Horrors for me were the aside from Bellicor, the old blues coming out of the Pink Horror metal models. I loved them.
They're amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, they were. So that's how I got into the Demons, and then gradually it became more undivided, and to nowadays where I pretty much have pretty much everything in the book, and like 25,000 points worth of Demons. I'm a bit of a grizzled old veteran when it comes to the old Demons.
Bit of a fan, because it was this book perhaps you were looking forward to more than all the others, I think. So
when we started getting a theme with the 9th edition books, you know, they were getting quite exciting because they were really putting some more theme behind playing, you know, the books as well. And generally every book that comes out is, you know, it's quite decent, and they're quite fun to play. And I was lucky enough to know some of the stuff that was in this book a long time ago. Like I'm going back to close to a year ago, I started hearing about stuff that were in this book. So I've been gearing up for it. And even though I took 6 months off beginning of the year, once the steam started picking up about the Demons, I really got myself back into it, and only had to wait a couple months before, you know, the book come out. But I always said, you know, I was more on the mixed chaos train for a while. Still a lot of Demons in my list, but I was very much on the waiting for, once that book comes out, I'm just back to solo Demons, at least for a long while. And and you know, I'm loving the book. It's a really well written book. I think it's lost a bit of the flavour that maybe because you don't really get much benefit for having, you know, mono detachments or mono army. So maybe there's not so much fluff behind it in that reason, but I still think I'm enjoying playing it. I'm not feeling. I still feel like there's a lot of power in the book, and a lot of the units are decent, except for Nurgle, unfortunately. But
my Nurgle
no,
boys.
it's sad because I do love it. As much as I'm a big Zinch guy, like Nurgle is probably my close second. So but overall, like I'm enjoying the book. I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm testing. I'm just in the odd games, friendly games or local games. I'm testing out some very different stuff, and even though it's not stuff we're seeing the most outright power in at the moment, like there are a couple units I'm like, oh my god, with a bit more practice and maybe some better build around, I can actually make something quite good out of this. So yeah, I do. I love the book. I love, and I think as well what helps is when you love an army, because I'm a very passionate person. So I'm a very big Demons guy, and I love Demons. And when you love an army, or when you have a real passion for that army, you kind of put more of yourself into playing it.
Yes, no, completely.
Yeah, so I've enjoyed the last 2 months since the book's come out, and I think any Demon player at the moment is in a very good spot. And so.
No, that's great. I mean, we'll talk in turn and balance a little bit later because I think I agree with you that there are a couple of patches. Like it's a little patchy in terms of some of the gods and some of the units aren't necessarily in the same spot as others, but I think there's a lot of exciting units in there, and it doesn't feel like anything that can't be fixed over the long term with nudges in points in different directions. I think that's the good news. I think with the Demons book, it's probably going to live several lives over the next year or two, depending on what gets balanced in what directions, right? And obviously you yourself, you've recently gone solo as True Demon Lord. Do you want to tell us what that's about?
Yeah, so so it's an entity that I started literally. I've just had my first birthday, I guess. Like I started it about mid-October last year, and it was just started off as a way to just document hobby and like my games and my tournaments and that, because I wanted to keep a digital footprint, more so for myself than anything, but to keep up with my process. I was, of course, with just like yourself. I used to be with Twisted Dice.
With Twisted Dice, nice local guys. I'm playing there tonight.
I love the Twisted Dice guys and all of that, but I think when I come back out of my 6 months hiatus of the hobby, I'd lost, I won't say interest, but my passion for the Twisted Dice stuff. Yeah. I obviously live a bit further away from where the base is for that as well. They're based around Leighton Buzzard, and I'm from Kent. It's a journey. So So I started doing a lot more on my own True Demon Lord stuff, and then I started testing some stuff out, like logos and stuff, and started really enjoying it. And I wanted to I had a blog from years ago, but I wanted to reopen my blog up as that. And in the end, I just decided, I'm going to go all hog into the True Demon Lord aspect. And I think to do that, I couldn't also be part of the Twisted Dice because I couldn't give both my time. So
no, absolutely,
I had to part ways, but like all amicable, no issues or anything like that.
Oh no, of course.
And I still will attend events because I love their events. But so
they're great events.
True Demon Lord is I have the Facebook and the Instagram. I've also got the blog, all under the name True Demon Lord. I document my games, my hobby progress, my events, and also I have my blog, which is getting quite successful, which is nice. I just share tips and tricks on the demon stuff, my experiences, all that kind of stuff. So if you're into demons and chaos in general, but more so demons, please give me a check out. I'm always taking advice on what people want to read about, or certain experiences at my events. But I'm really enjoying it. I've just heavily invested in like logos and my own little kit and stuff like that. And
exciting, very nice.
I love it. I love just being able to do my own thing. And I've always been a bit of I won't say a lone wolf, but I've always kind of in outside of the hobby. I've always been a bit of a I do it myself kind of a person. So I think it made sense for the next progression of my hobby career to do
Completely.
that.
No, I think it's really exciting, and the blog's really cool. Lots of nice advice coming through, and there you're sort of we're going to call you the UK's answer to Warhammer. Let's have you, and it's that kind of that deep process, right? And again, it's faction specialist deep process, which I think people in the hobby really love and really appreciate, right? Because you know chaos inside out, and I actually think the written format is really valuable as well for seeing people's thought processes and understanding it. And
I think it's easier to because. Like, I like listening to things, but sometimes you might be preoccupied with doing something. Like you can listen to paint, but you may focus where you miss out on that one bit of information where you're reading it, you're immersed in it, and and so and I can't lie, like Mike P, you know, from Warhammer was always a big inspiration of mine. I've had some conversations.
Oh, it's great. I think every Chaos player I know loves his stuff.
I've had some conversations with him. Same with Wallace, and they're great guys. They know their Chaos stuff, and you know, but like a lot of those online bloggers and writers and all of that stuff, they tend to be US based.
Yeah,
and I think it is a bit of a different meta as well, and so
it really is completely different.
And I've been getting a lot of from both people across the pond and over here, and I've even had someone from Australia as well, you know, giving me messages and asking for advice and telling me how much they appreciate it and they love it. Love my post, how it's helping them. So you know, that's a great feeling, and it really makes me want to continue doing it and help people out and share my passion for Chaos and Demons as well with everyone. So
no, that's great. I'm really excited to see that continue to develop, and I think you're gonna have a really good time with it. And not least because I think this is a golden time to be playing one of your favorite armies, to be playing Chaos Demons. So let's do the elevator pitch first. Let's sell Chaos Demons to people. Why would you play Chaos Demons in 40k, Franco? They've not got any guns. What's that about? Why would I choose to play weird sort of demonic entities in this mad space game? Sell it to me.
So not quite true. They have some guns. Some grinders have guns. Skull guns. No, exactly. Like it's not your atypical army. You know, like you know.
No, they're unusual.
Play your big armored guys with your big guns or your big swords. But we don't do that. We're all like, and it's kind of like 4 armies in one. You know, you get your different.
It really is.
And unlike a lot of armies, you know, where you have them 1 or 2, 3 or 4 units. Generally, a lot of troop units that they don't really do a lot. They might have them units that aren't specialized. Pretty much everything in the demon codex is specialized, like even your basic troops.
Yes.
Your demonettes are fast, they chuck out a lot of attacks. Your bloodletters, they punch quite hard. Your horrors are quite, you know, well, horrors do a lot of things. They can shoot, they're quite hard to kill. Plague bearers in general, quite tough to kill, you know? So just as some examples, you know, you can really add flavor to your list. I personally think all the units are cool because I mean, it's not just like, say, with Space Marines, it's a guy and then a guy with a gun and then a guy with a chainsaw and then a guy with a bigger gun. You know, it's you get your bloodletters and you can put your bloodletter on a juggernaut, like, but then you get your flesh hounds or like Zinch, your pink horrors, your flamers, your screamers, and then I think
completely different entities, right?
Exactly.
Like completely different monsters.
Everything is so cool, and then I think the biggest drawing point to someone who's not quite on the demon train or playing demons is the greater demons. Like,
they're amazing.
The big monsters, like who don't love big monsters? You know, I love the big monsters, cool. and all the 4 greater demon models are beautiful models. Like they are gorgeous. And
they're the single biggest, scariest monsters in the game, right?
Definitely.
No other army has anything quite like that.
No, I mean we have some armies with monsters, but like Greater Demons are and should be as well. You know, the scariest monsters in the game. And again, they all do their own different things. And I think another big selling point for Demons is Be'lakor himself because he's good, he's awesome, and his model is beautiful. It is personally my favourite model. Like, it's not just because he's the character that got me into Demons, but the model is my favourite model.
It's probably the most impressive thing to come out in 9th, isn't it?
Exactly. Exactly. And the amount of times I've played against people that go, you know, I don't play Demons, but I have the Be'lakor model, and I'm like, because he's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like, so, and I think another thing is and this always gets people when I say this, but I'm not a massive sci-fi fan. Like, I like a bit of sci-fi. I love 40k, but I'm not a big sci-fi fan. Like, I'm not into like, you know, Star Wars and Star Trek, all that kind of thing, which is people find nuts when I say that. But I'm a massive. I love the fantasy genre, so I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan and Game of Thrones, all that kind of stuff. I love anything that's quite fantasy based. I always have been. I love my history and all that as well, back to like medieval times. So with Demons, you know, it's kind of. You know, it's not playing. I don't feel like I'm playing a futuristic faction when I play Demons.
Yeah, well, they're not. Right? They're almost anachronistic. They're the voice from the swamp back in time. Exactly. That's what's awesome about them.
So, another reason why I love them so much, and I've always been a big fan of the demonic element in anything.
It's super cool.
I love like the demon occult and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, I just think Demons are probably the most unique army in 40k.
I think you're right.
They offer you a lot of different play styles, like. yes, you can take your mini factions in other armies, like different chapters or different high fleets or dynasties or whatever, but you can literally play 4 completely different style armies.
Completely different,
You can take a Slanesh army and you're very fast, death by 1,000 cuts type of army, similar to maybe the way Elder can be. Then you can go Khorne and you're just essentially a sledgehammer, like, or you can go Zinch, you go magic heavy and
shenanigans,
quite trickery, or you can go Nurgle and just say remove me, like try and kill me, like. So you've got you can play. There's so much fun, I think, with Demons, and you can kind of achieve whatever theme you want to go with.
No, I think that's right.
I think there's also some really good options for conversions with Demon, because it's chaos and it is pure chaos. Like, it is the warp manifest. You can really go nuts with how you want to go direction with the look of your army as well. So.
No, I completely agree, and I think the overlap with fantasy is amazing. Not least because it's actually, you can play them in Age of Sigmar as well. That's quite nice having that.
It is quite cool. Yes,
I think that's one of the things the 40k lore actually does really well, is working that kind of actual fantasy element in with the Chaos Gods. Because I think for a lot of people, the lore of the Chaos Gods is one of the most compelling bits of the universe. Right, the different sort of emotions they represent and the way that they're sort of ensnaring different factions in the game is really, really powerful. And that level of customization is awesome. I think I get the same itch scratch with Drakari, where it's like the fact that you're building across multiple different armies that do different things. That's a degree of flexibility that not many factions really get. And just the first few times you go to events and you see full demon armies on the table with the different god schemes painted, they just pop on the table, like the blues and the reds and the greens and the pinks. Nothing quite visually like it in the game, where you have loads of armies that are very sort of one scheme.
Yeah, very uniform, very singular with their scheme. Where with Demons, it is literally chaos. Like, and
so as a hobby project, they're really cool.
I love putting my Demon army on the table, because it's like I might play against a Space Marine, an Ultramarine army that's all blue, and then you've got my blues and purples and pinks and greens and reds, and it really is just a stunning sight to see. Even not as an amazing painter, you can still have a cool looking Demon army. And I mean, Demons are also very good with contrast. I'm a pretty decent painter, but I'm a lazy painter. Like, I will put all the work into the big stuff of the characters. I love doing that. The little guys, and with Demons, you generally tend to have a lot of little guys.
You do.
I just can't be arsed. So a lot of my little guys are all contrast, but they still look fantastic. They just a lot of their models tend to paint themselves.
They suit contrast though. Yeah, they really do that. The whole range loves contrast. They've just got all the natural sort of folds and sort
contrast
of angles.
Is made for Demons.
Yeah, really, really is. No, fantastic. I mean, so in terms of, obviously, you're someone who I think would play them whatever the overall sort of strength and powers. I'm sorry, currently busy. Thank you. No, thank you. I'm okay. Cheers. I think you'd be absolutely sort of, you'd be playing them regardless. But what do you think? Why are they breaking through at this moment in time? What's the sort of power and the strength of them?
So I just think they manipulate part of the game that not many people can. So the delivery system of Demons, I think, is very powerful. I think that's can be quite underestimated. Like, the thing is, I tend to find most of the codex isn't massively tough, apart from certain big guy builds. Most of the army itself isn't massively resilient. Maybe the odd small units like Pink Horrors, but being able to bring your units down and get quite reliable charges, or be able to bring them down in quite reliable areas. You've got your warp locuses, you've got many ways to manipulate leadership to come in that far away. Just allows your units to kind of come in and do what they need to do. Like your bloodletters, you can get them down quite close, or you can use Velocore or Scarbrand to get them in 6 inches away. You get your 3D 6-inch charge, pick the highest with the strat, and they get to where they need to get to. So I think the thing is with Demons is where you can tend to manipulate how you go up against certain armies by isolating part of the list. It's quite hard to do that with Demons, because Demons can tend to pick up a spot on the board and just hammer it quite hard. But the thing is, we are seeing, which is really good, we're seeing a lot of different list archetypes. Like, I'll give a shout out and a bit of credit to a guy, I don't know if you know him, you might do, Jack Tite. Do you know Jack Tite?
I do know Jack Tite. He's a lovely guy.
I love really Jack Tite. Me and him get on really well. I played him at the Saffron Saffron Slam GT a couple of weeks ago.
Nice.
Me and him played in the final too. And he was running a 5 monster list that he of course went 4-1 with, and it wasn't even the strongest. And he's just gone to Leicester, and he actually swapped out his keeper for Shalaxi and his great unclean one, which unfortunately is not very good. Oh. Scarbrand, who is pretty decent,
who is very good, yeah.
And he went 5-3 in the end. Because I think he ran into some hard games, but he done
with a ton of big monsters.
Yeah, he done really well, and I was watching it over the weekend, going, "Oh, he's making me want to change my mind in the direction I've kind of gone," because I love his list and it's just cool looking. But don't get me wrong, it still takes skill to play. You've got to know how to play that kind of a list. But Jack is a good player, and when me and him were playing each other a couple of weeks ago, I'm gone more on the band of like my old style of play of very infantry heavy, and obviously he was a lot of heavy monsters, so we were kind of both opposite ends of the demon spectrum, and to see both of them on top of each other, going 1-on-1 like to try and win an event was great. And and then there's another guy, I can't remember his name, but I know he's an Icelandic guy. He done quite well at LGT. He was there again. He's just overtaken me by 20 points in the number one stand up in the UK, which is really annoying. But he's running a list currently with no big monsters, and he's running like a lot of Demonettes, which I personally think Demonettes are one of the best units in the book.
Yes.
I've been running 50. I'm going to drop the 40 for this weekend, just to get me a bit more secondary play. But I do think his list is doing quite well. But that's what I think the strength is with Demons is your secondary play is good. You can manipulate the primary play quite well. I just think overall, Demons they play the game just very well. It's quite hard to
I think there's a few really important points there. One, I think fragility definitely is an issue. You're absolutely right. Partly because, as we've alluded to, the Nurgle units got a bit of a raw deal in this book. They're not. That's where you'd be looking to for natural resilience.
Except for Beast and Nurgle, I actually think Beast and Nurgle are amazing. Like I do, I think they are slightly too expensive, which is probably a problem with a lot of the units in the book. I do think the book is probably about 10% overcosted, but I think Beast and Nurgle are fantastic, and they are where they should be. It's just every other Nurgle unit just is, not fantastic.
But what you do have, as you say, is amazing delivery. So you've got the deep striking in from shorter distances. You've got your bit greater demons where you can deep strike in around them. And so that does mean you can pick your fights really flexibly, and you're going to be able to get stuck in and often surprise people or get in and around people into places they don't want you to go, which gives you massively strong secondary and primary play because you can get all over the board. You've got teleporting. There seems to be a lot of teleporting. There's a lot of ways to move stuff around.
You've got obviously Shroud of Step from Bellacorn, the Noctic Discipline, which is a fantastic power. I don't think anyone should sleep on that power. Any kind of teleporting is amazing. That's why Thousand Suns also do quite well with Cult of Duplicity. And that's helped me. Like I've been able to get my Flamers in a spot where I kind of didn't think I could. And when Flamers can get into a spot behind your lines, that is not good.
It's a disaster.
And same with Bloodletters. I've teleported a unit of Bloodletters late game, 3d6 charge, made it in and flipped the objective on the last turn to just flip primary. So, I think Demons just have a fantastic delivery system, which gets around, the fragility of the army, and which is good. So, I just think the thing with the Demon book is there's a lot of tricks in there. I think pretty much every game I've had at least one moment where my opponent goes, "Oh wow, I didn't know you could do that," or "Oh my god, like what?" So which is I guess good because it shows
definitely
the book is not a simple book, and it isn't a simple book to use. Like you've got to have some kind of player skill to be able to pilot it well. And practice. I think practice with anything is, you've got to practice.
Yeah, definitely.
But I do. I think the book is generally in a very good spot. I do think we may have an issue when they do get around to upping Flamers and points, which they do need it. Like I'm not deluded. Flamers, they need to go up in points. They are too cheap for what they do. But at the moment, they are the biggest prop for the book. And I am a big advocate for when they do put demons up, that they do need Flamers up. Sorry, they do need to put some units down.
Yeah, I think they will. I think it's definitely.
I hope so, because I don't want to see them kill the book dead. Not that I think Flamers are not the only book unit in the book that is good, but they are definitely. I mean, I for my list, they do a lot of work. A lot of work.
I think they serve a really important role because so much of the army depends on getting into combat and doing stuff that way. So you do need to have a threat that is a ranged threat.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
And I think they keep the opponent honest as well. From you can't just rush at demons because the threat of the counterpunch from flamers is very real. So they add to that positioning game and give you more ways to catch the opponent out. Yeah, they're a bit cost effective, but new units in books always are. There's always one or two that are. And I think as you say, you'd hope that there's an adjustment to the two other units in there when flamers do get adjusted. So it doesn't look at the moment like demons are posting the kind of numbers that merits heavy-handed treatment.
They're doing really well, but I think overall we're winning some events, but we're posting about 55% win rate, which is
absolutely
top
fine.
of where
That's fine. Yeah,
between 45 55, So it's not like we're posting 60 and 65.
No.
Like Nids are still posting 58, and how many nights have Nids had?
It's not one of the sort of mid-ninth nightmare.
Exactly, and Harlequins are doing very well, and Elden are good.
Yeah.
So they are far from a massive issue, but I just think we have seen such a surge in the amount of demon players. Like I went the GT I went to a couple of weeks ago. Out of I think it was 25 players. I think 7 or 8 of us were demon players. And there was multiple times where the top 2 tables were like 4 and 5 demon players, and that was a bit like wow,
amazing.
There is a lot of demon players. I'm going to Brighton this Saturday, like I said, and I'm the only demon player, so
nice.
it fluctuates.
Absolutely.
I think that's the thing is we're seeing a lot of demon players at the moment, so. I think that will.
But it's reassuring, isn't it, that you can try. You've got builds where it's lots of monsters. You've got builds where it's sort of very much centered on the truth.
Yeah, there's not one build which is good. If there's one build, then there's a problem. Like obviously every build you're seeing flamers, but some lists you're seeing 9 flamers, some lists you're seeing the max 18. I'm running 15. 15 is quite common. You're seeing maybe in between them 12 and 15. So yes, flamers are common. Bellicor is generally common, but. Aside from that, we are seeing...
Yeah, Bellicor seems to be a staple.
I just think he's...
much without it.
There is an argument. There's a lot of people that don't think it's worth it. I swear by Bellicor. Maybe there's a bit of, sentimental biasm there as well. But but in general, I think Bellicor just adds a lot to the list. But yeah, we're seeing 5 monster lists, 3 monster lists, 1 monster list, no monster list. Like we are seeing loads of different versions of lists, which is great to see because it means it's not just... one type of army. Like with Nids, it was always like warrior spam generally in harpies, or we're not just seeing that one list archetype, we're seeing multiple and they're doing well, so that's good.
No, absolutely. And in terms of the secondary game, you mentioned they got a good secondary game, so what does a good demon secondary game look like? What's the magic here?
So I mean there's 2 of them that are very matchup dependent, but there's one that every demon player takes. And it's Reality Rebels. So
Reality Rebels, okay. So what do you need to do for this?
For Reality Rebels, you essentially, the easiest way I describe it to my opponents is you split the board up into 5 sections. So you take the centre and you draw a 6-inch circle around it, and then you've got the 4 quarters. And you score a point for every quarter of the board that you have, your opponent doesn't have more units in than you do, wholly within. So that's obviously outside of the 6-inch circle of the centre, and there is no engage. There is no certain measurement away from the quarters. It's just wholly within the quarter. So if the demon player has equal or more units wholly within it, they get a point. And then if the demon player has 1 unit or at least 1 unit wholly within 6 inches of the centre, they also get another point. It's just essentially just be on the board and you score points. And with demons, you can really, with the combination of being able to take a fair few units with my style of list, or with the big monster list, being able to kill units quite easily. Like demons are very good at picking a point of the board and going, "That's mine." And then you've got your own part of the board that you're just going to score that passively for most of the game. So I'm out of, I think I've played 24 tournament games now with the book. There's 2 games that might be 3 games I haven't scored 15, and I'm pretty sure 2 of them were 14s. So, it is a really near nice 15 secondary, which is amazing. And I'm glad we have 1. And then we have 2 more. Nourished by Terror, which is very good in certain matchups. In the Orc matchup, it's fantastic. So basically, it's kind of like the Night Lords one as well with the leadership. So anytime you kill a unit, you roll 2d6 and compare it to the leadership of the last model. And I'm pretty sure... I think it's equal or beat. I can't remember if it's equal and beat.
Yeah, I think it's equal or beat.
I think it's equal or beat. You get a point. And that obviously can be affected by your demonic terror aura. So you can still reduce that. And then for every model that flees the board through leadership and that, you also get a point. And against armies that have a lot of morals and low leaderships, like other demon armies, orcs, GSC, You can really, like, I went up against an Orc list a few weeks ago at an RTT in the final round of the event. His Orc list had smashed like Nids and Sisters and all that, and he was doing really well. And I took that and scored 10 points in one turn. Like, that's just massive. So it's not amazing. It's obviously not going to work in Marine matchups, but there are them matchups where you go, cool, Norwich by Terror, because that's going to be amazing. And then you've got the Spoilers of Reality. I'm not massively keen on it. So it's kind of like the Necron one, but not as good. So you have to do an action on a secondary that's not in your deployment. And you can do it on multiple in a turn, but it doesn't complete until your following command phase. But if it goes off, you get 5 points per objective you've done it on. So it's a case. It would be one of those secondaries that would be amazing if you knew you were going second, and then you just do it in the last turn. But obviously, you don't know you're going second, so it's okay. Yeah. Against certain lists, it's not bad. But against armies that are very shooty or very fast, it's just not amazing. But it's okay. It's got its uses in certain matchups.
Absolutely.
And then you just play other secondaries quite well. Like you can do banners. R&D is a personal favourite. I love R&D. I tend to just get the 12 on that.
Again, when you've got teleporting infantry,
right? Exactly. You can come down, like you can pull your opponent apart, and if your opponent decides to sit back to protect a quarter, they're not bringing units out to deal with your stuff. So it's really good. And Demonettes are amazing for it because they can get close to the quarter in a turn, and then in the following turn, bosh, right in the turn, so into the quarter. And Psychic secondaries are quite good.
Of course. Yep.
And I've built my list around Psychic Interrogation or Psychic Ritual, or Warp Ritual. So that's a very good one as well. And your killing secondaries as well. If you've got your big guys specifically, you're very good at killing secondaries. If you like a list like Jack's list with all the monsters, that's a very good grind list. But I find, even with my infantry list, against a lot of armies, no prisoners is quite good. Like, I went up against the list with 40 What's the Dark Angel Terminators? What are they? Are they Deathwing?
Oh, Deathwing. Yeah.
I was going to say Death Guard. I'm like, it's not Death Guard.
No.
I went up against a list of 40 Deathwing and decided to go with no prisoners and racked it. I think I got 13 or 14 points with my, Bloodletter, Flamer, Demonette list. So I just think Demons have the ability to play in pretty much all the elements of the secondary game. You've got pretty much a near auto or probably auto 15 secondary and Rebels. You've got Norwich, which is good in certain matchups. You play very well into the banners or R&D. You play well into Psychic secondaries. You can manipulate your Psychic as well to do it quite well. So, and I also think Demons are quite good at denying
they are
secondaries as well. Because I love it when people go Psychic secondaries against me. I have a lot of deniers on the board, and that content for sorcery stratagem to be able to deny on a 4+. Like, if anyone has a 4+ deny strat, unless it's on a certain model and I can get around it, I generally won't go Psychic secondary because anytime you take a Psychic secondary and someone has a 4+ deny, always rolls a 4+.
It's a roulette. So you're really cutting down their potential.
Yeah. So and I've had it where someone scored one set of like interrogation because I've denied 4 of them, So my kind of list does give away no prisoners, but again I can manipulate that. Obviously the big monster lists do give away bring it down. But again, some of the monsters are incredibly
if
tough.
you get into them. That's the thing. Yeah, exactly. Not many armies can keep dropping big monsters.
Sometimes you have no answer for a Bloodthirster, Scarbrand, Bellicor. You can bring them 1, maybe 2, but if you're running 3, 4, 5, it is quite difficult because there's only so far you can go before they end up killing all your stuff, especially with Flamers and Bloodletters behind it. So.
Yeah, and they're one of those armies that I think that the pressure they apply makes it very hard for other armies to actually get on and score their secondaries. Because actually you're in a fight for survival against Demons.
You can put on a lot of pressure. Like, again, something I found with my current list with the infantry is once I start really going for it, I can see my opponent, the pressure on my opponent, like they're struggling, like, I need that side, but then there's this, and then if I go and kill these flamers are behind that wall, and you can really force pressure. And I've always been that kind of a player where I like to play with my opponent, not just the list. So going for like if I can kind of gauge how my opponent is, I feel like they can get a bit frantic, or if I feel like they're getting a bit like, oh no, I tend to go for that because that
forces mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. Once someone starts to get stressed or they get a bit, like oh my god, like it's so easy to make mistakes. I've done it myself. Like I think we've all been in those positions, but and once someone starts making 1, 2, 3 mistakes, you can just capitalize on that and end the game.
Absolutely. No, it's really good, and I think that's it. I think they're well equipped for Nephilim. They're well equipped for Ninth.
Definitely.
They've got some good units. I mean, we talked a little bit about we'll talk a little bit more about good and bad units at the end. But I guess out of curiosity, within the meta as a whole, what would you say the sort of good matchups are and why? And what potentially are the challenges is for Demons at the moment and why? What kind of armies do you think they have good play into? What kind of armies do they struggle with in your experience?
So from my personal experience, I want to put that out there specifically because some people go, well, I play really well into this. I'm like, but I haven't. I think most of the Marine matchups, I do think Blood Angels is an issue. But outside of Blood Angels, I'm generally fine. Same with Chaos Space Marines. I think Creations of Baal is a big issue. But they are an issue for a lot of people. They are very good. Any army
sort of real combat specialist armies.
Any army that can really hit you with combat hurts. And a Creation of Baal where, because Demons can't trade very well, we're too expensive for that. We're built like a trading army, but not priced like it. You kill a unit of Possessed with your Bloodletters, and then your Bloodletters die in the same phase. It's like, no, that's not good. Any army that can trade really well, I find Elder to be a problem. Craft Worlds. I've not had issues with Drukhari in the games I've played against them.
I think it's a struggle for Drukhari.
I think Harlequins actually is a bit of a hard matchup as well.
Stuff that can play keep away.
Yeah, any kind of good, fast combat army that can trade is a problem. But yes, I find Tau is a good matchup because you can grab them and it's game over, especially if you have a lot of Khorne and you have options for the Khorne Warp Storm abilities where you can just trap them in combat. And their shooting is, unless they can put out a lot of shots, I find the Tau players I've gone into so far just have, they've the middle of the ground kind of shots. I can deal with that elitish kind of infantry, and it just bounces off me. Like I said, Marines is a good matchup. What else is a good matchup? I'm trying to think what else I've played against so far. I think Sisters is a bit of a tough matchup, depending. I think Orcs is a good matchup. At least for me, I've played 4 Orc players with the new book, and I've won all 4 games. And one of them was a close game that took me to the end, but the other 3, I'd never felt like I was in trouble with it. GSC is a very interesting matchup because
I'm curious about that one.
I have played at LGT. I played against it, and I felt like it was very much. Generally, I will be very throw a lot of reserves and then just hit my opponent like that. And that was the one matchup where I just started most of it on the board because I was like, I would rather just screen you out and then react to what you do.
Yeah, completely.
And it worked, and I managed to win the game. And I think that's why I won the game, because I was just able to push them back. But yeah, I do. I think just the genuine boogeymans of the meta is an issue for Demons. I actually think Thousand Suns are a bit of an issue as well, because they can put out a lot of shots and a lot of mortal wounds, and Demons don't like mortal wounds. Any army that can crap out a lot of mortal wounds is an issue. And like I said, any army that can put out a lot of shots at that standard strength 4, strength 5 does cause an issue, because like I said, a 4+ save that ignores your AP and can't be removed is amazing, but if you're chucking 20-30 saves at it, you're going to fail a lot. And you've only got
volume and mortal wounds.
Exactly.
Issues, right?
So that is Demon's biggest issue. It's the volume of attacks or shots, and they don't even have to be that strong. And mortal wound output. But I do think Demons in general are very good into most of the meta. It's just those top boogeymans like Blood Angels, Creations. Thousand Suns is an issue specifically for Demons, I think. But then again, I've seen some Demon players. I've not gone into Thousand Suns yet. Oh, sorry, I've gone into Thousand Suns once, and I think it was a case of their Psychic Phase was okay, and then I trapped them in combat, and then I got them. So you kind of need that little bit of luck. But yeah, and I think when it comes to the mirror match, So I've played a lot of the mirror match, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of Demon players
Yeah.
at the moment. I think I've played about 9 games out of the 24 competitive games into
Makes
Demons.
sense, right? It's new and it's popular.
Yeah, and most of the games have been against when I've run more infantry, and I've won all 9 mirror matches so far. But I tend to find that me having more infantry units, I've won the games against the more monstery lists.
Yes.
But then I've seen like Jack himself, he's played more infantry lists. Like he played my list and he lost, but this weekend I think he played a couple lists that had less monsters in him and he won. So I think they go really well into the high, like if it's a monster versus monster matchup, you can go either way. I think if it's a 3 monster versus 5 monster, I think that quite favours the 5 monster. But if you're going 5 monsters or 3 monsters into a list that is more infantry based, I think the more infantry demon list wins that one just because of the mission.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Again, from personal experience and seeing how it's gone.
No, absolutely.
But yeah.
And but I think that's interesting, and it's definitely relevant as well to think about the mirror because it's going to crop up, and that was kind of, I think that's been a lot of the demon players I know have been saying that you just want more and more troops and bodies on the ground to score and to play the mission, and I can see, I guess, particularly as with the monsters, they're then stuck chewing into demon saves as well. That makes it harder for them to get through stuff than some of the other stuff they'd be fighting against, right? So it's suddenly a little bit different. No, that's very interesting, and it sounds from that like there are some sort of hyper specialist speed and punch armies can hit you in the right places and play the positioning game against you.
Any army that can trade well, is because you just, as a demon player, like I will stick by this phrase: is we are built like a trading army, but not priced like it. That's how it feels. And we don't trade well. Like you can play that game, and if you play it properly, you can win. But it is very hard against a very good player. Like, and I find whenever I play an elder player, they tend to always be really good because they tend to be long time elder players, and elder have never really been the easiest faction to play. So
it's not for the faint-hearted.
No, so yeah, and they know how to trade. So if you go against a player with a trading army that knows how to play it well, it is a really hard matchup.
That's interesting. I think that might explain why craft worlds have suddenly made a little bit of a reappearance because I've seen a lot more of them around in the last couple of weeks. Which I think it's partly because Nids took a hit in the face and partly because demons are very popular. So that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah,
but it sounds like generally though a lot of the meta you've got a good game into and can have a good run at most things.
There's not a lot that scares me.
That's
like
great.
I look at a roster of army lists. I don't look at a lot and go, oh no, that's an issue. Like I'll look at it and go, that depends on the player, depends on the type of list. But there's only 2 or 3 where I look at and go, oh, that's not a fun one. Like, so
no, that's an exciting place to be. I think with
definitely.
The book, especially when it's just out, you want that feeling of having a good game into lots of different things.
Yes.
Let's talk good bad units because that's where the issue of internal balance comes from. Because I'm certainly of the opinion that the internal balance of the book could have been a little bit better than it was.
Yeah.
But let's talk first about the standout units. What works in 9th? What can demon players build around? What kinds of units do you get the most work from?
Let's start with the obvious one, Flamers.
Yeah.
Flamers.
Flamers are amazing, right?
They're so good. Like when I first saw them, I was like, oh, they look quite good, but I didn't see them as ridiculous. And someone said to me, they're nuts, and I'm like, they're good. I don't think they're like ridiculous. And then I started getting games in with them, and then I was like, oh my god, they're actually unreal. Like they prop up my list so much. So like Flamers are amazing. They chuck out a lot of damage. They can
huge volume.
They can take
AP.
shooting, but like I've had my opponent just put all their shooting into a Flamers because they want to kill them, and they've killed 1 to 2 Flamers. Flamers can really take a punch. And then their weakness is combat, but you still have to get in there and you have to take the Overwatch.
And in an army that is actually very good at combat, getting to the one bit of it that doesn't like to be punched isn't that easy.
No, it's not. You can protect them, and
the rest of it is very ready for you to come in and have a go.
And you've still got to take the Overwatch, and Flamers are amazing. So I think every list you see 2 to 3 units of Flamers, more than 3.
Yep.
So that's the obvious one. I think, it was my initial opinion when the book come out was this is my favorite unit, and now I'm not taking credit for like, oh my god, I found them, but they're becoming a lot more popular, and I think that's Demonettes. Demonettes
I agree.
immediately when I saw them, I was like, they are going to be so good. And because I saw a lot of people say, nah, they're okay, but I was like, no, because they've got their 10-inch movement. That's huge on an infantry.
They are rapid. Yeah,
that's massive. Yeah. They chuck out 4 attacks each at strength 4 -2. You can get flat rerolls a hit on them. Like they're so good, and they're really good utility units. They've got a lot of attacks that I don't think people realize. Like I had someone charge a unit of Demonettes and go, I'm just going to tack them up so they can't move. Like, they won't kill me. And I can't remember what it was, but I ended up killing the unit. And they were like, what? I'm like, like, don't doubt Demonettes. Like, so
they've just got a profile that hurts most things, right? It's a really nice
it's profile. Just because they've got so many attacks, and you can change it up. Like, Hysterical Frenzy is a fantastic power. Getting your Demonettes to 5 attacks each with Exploding 6s to hit. And with an icon, you can get the flat reroll, so you can fish for those 6s. Yeah. It's just so many attacks.
Super good.
So, I think Be'lakor as well. There is an argument. Some people don't think he's that good. 420 points. He's quite pricey, but, you know, he's an undivided Warp Locus. He gives you access to Shrouded Step and Pool of Despair.
I think having that in-game teleport is huge, right? If you want to have flamers on the board, but still get them around. Like,
exactly, and being able to just, you know, flip primary because there's an empty objective on the other side of the board, so you just teleport an infantry over on it. You know, you've got a lot of play there. And Pool of Despair opening up the ability to turn off, like stop a unit doing actions or fail actions is quite niche but good. But Fight Last is why you take that power. Fight Last is so powerful because it allows you, as a combat army, or mostly combat army, it allows you to make 2 big charges.
You can pick 2 fights
and not have to worry about an interrupt because you can go, Clayton is going to fight last, so I'm going to charge both of them, and then I can kill that one and then kill that one and not have to worry about the interruption. So
100%.
And then Be'lakor's combat, I think, is a lot of people do put it down, but I think it's really good. Like, he's got 6 attacks, but his attacks degrade, but he never degrades on his hits. He hits on 2s. He rerolls 1s because his reroll 1s already is not core locked, which is fantastic again because he can give that out to Greater Demons. And he ignores the invuns. A D3 plus.
Ignoring invuns is massive, right? Having some ignore invuns.
I've had him walk into units that rely on their 4+ invun, and he just picks them up. Like, he just clears stuff, and because he's got all 4 god keywords, he benefits from everything. Like a lot of the stratagems, the warp storm ability. So he's just, for me, a piece that is very versatile that you can just continuously. He's just very good, and people are scared of him. So
he's terrifying. I'm scared of him.
Yeah, exactly. Like he can just clear in part of the board because people don't want to be near him.
Huge amount of commitment to bring him down because -1 to hit, -1 to wound, reducing damage, right? And he's got a lot of wounds to begin with, so it takes an enormous amount of effort to shift. And the nature of the army is such that if you try and do that, the rest of the army is so well positioned to just ruin your day when you try and do it. So I think that's where his big strength is, right? Because he actually takes some removing.
If you go for Be'lakor and you don't get him, and if especially if you don't even hurt him that much, it's like you put everything into him. You've let all these other units do what they need to do, and the big guy's still there. Like, and I've had that happen.
That happens a lot.
My opponent's gone, I'm just going to bring Be'lakor down, and they take 6 wounds off him in a turn, and it's like, cool. My 30 Demonettes here, and my 10 Flamers, and my 20 Bloodletters, you know, they're untouched. And Be'lakor's barely hurt, you know. I think Bloodletters is also another good unit. They just good damage, AP -3, 2 damage.
Yeah, they give you some like anti-marine equivalent type.
And they, you know, for an army that, especially for my list, that I don't really have massive hitters in my list, so I can use them to hit tanks, and they can bring tanks down, especially if you soften them up first.
Yeah, and they've got great delivery with the 3d6
3d6. It just makes it huge. Like, you don't mind taking a 9, coming 9 inches away because you've got the 3d6. So the Bloodthirst is good. If you build them certain ways, you know,
the old phase cap Bloodthirst.
The phase cap, the Feel No Pain. The big axe is huge. It's amazing. I think the Lord of Change is also amazing.
Yes.
The mortal wound output of that guy is unreal.
Can be really, really nice.
You can be -1 to hit at range. You can make him -1 to wound. The Impossible Robe to ignore a failed save per phase is really good.
Really good.
And a 3+ save versus range and 5+ in combat. You know,
ruins the day of any
he's actually really versatile. And he's the only... Like, I've been looking at trying to fit him into my list and even toyed with dropping Be'lakor for him. So I don't think I will, but he's really good. I think a unit that a lot of people more so slept on, I think, again, she's coming to the forefront now, is the Keeper. Because her combat is good. Like, she chucks out a lot of attacks. So the Sineshi powers are really good.
That's a really nice set of powers.
And you can get her with +2 to charge and plus 3 to charge from the Warp Storm. You know, you can get her within 6 through Be'lakor.
The delivery becomes very, very reliable.
Exactly, or within 6 for the Infernal and Rapturous. So you've got some really good options there. So yeah, some of the top units, I think Beasts are good. They just need a point drop. But I do like Beast and Nurgle because they're quite hard to kill. And if you can't just chuck shots into them, you have to kill it. Because if you don't, it just goes back up the 4 wounds again at the end of the phase. So, they're hard to bring down. Blood Crushers, again, there's so many units that this unit would be so good if it cost a little bit less. I think Beasts, Blood Crushers and Screamers all fall into that category. So they're all good units. I think the Fate Skimmer as well, the Zinch Herald and the Chariot.
I'm seeing the Fate Skimmer.
He's fantastic. I run him in every list. The +1 to charge. +1 to charge, +1 to psychic phase. Sorry, you don't charge with him. Well, saying that, actually, the amount of times I've gone, he's got 6 attacks at strength 6 -3/2 damage. They can't be modified because they're malefic. The amount of times he's gone into something and knocked the last couple of wounds off of it is quite often it happens. So he gives you versatility. He's fast. He flies. His psychic is good. He's basically a mini Lord of Change, and that's why I'm not desperate to put the Lord of Change on my list because I still feel like I have him while still freeing up like 170 points or 180 points worth of stuff. I think they're all really good units. There are other units as well. But they're probably the ones that
those give you the tools, don't they, to build that melee punch, range punch, psychic actions, and big monsters if you want them as well. So there's a whole bunch of stuff there.
Yes.
No, it's good, and I think, as you say, it kind of comes down to where on the scale you fall, how many big nasty threats you want versus how much mission play you want. But all of those give you some really nice tools. Let's talk about the bad very briefly as we head towards the end. Then, in terms of the internal balance, what are the units that maybe aren't really doing it or maybe need a bit of help, do you think?
I'm just going to say Nurgle. I'm just going to put Nurgle out
just,
there as a
just
whole
Nurgle in general, not looking so hot, right?
Nurgle has a big issue because immediately when you look at the profile of Plague Bearer, you look at T5, you look at 2 wounds, and you think, oh, that looks quite good. But then you realise in the meta, there is a lot of answer for T5 2 wounds. There's a lot of strength 5, strength 6+, and a lot of 2 damage guns or weapons in the game. So, and a 4+ and a 5+ save, they're good. They're not that amazing, It's still just 4+ and a 5+ save, and they're slow. They're a little bit tough, but I don't think they're much tougher than say Pink Horrors, which I think Pink Horrors are good, just maybe slightly expensive, but good. So they're slow.
Yeah, I feel like with Nurgle, I'm surprised that they didn't get the 4+ in combat.
Yeah, I thought they would have got 4+. That's what I thought they were going to do with Nurgle, was they were going to give them the better saves. I still don't think that makes them amazing, but it makes them better than what they are. Unfortunately, Plague Bearers are not very good. I think Plague Drones are okay, but they just fall into that same line of, they're okay. I think the Great Unclean one is not very good. I think a lot of people have been tricked by the T9, because T9 is, when you look at it, you think, what the hell? Toughness 9, like Melter Winning on 5.
It's great fun. Yeah.
But for a guy that you would think should not fall over, he does just tend to fall over. Like, I've played against him a couple of times, and I'm like, that was not hard to bring down. Like, my Flamers are winning it on 4s with Infernal Flames. Be'lakor goes in and can pick him up, fairly easily. He's not that hard to kill. So I just think there's a lot of problems with Nurgle, unfortunately. Other units that aren't too good that isn't Nurgle, I think Screamers are a weird one. Like, I want to love Screamers because I think people's issues is they're a combat unit with a 6+ save. I'm like, but I don't see them as a combat unit. They're a unit that have a combat attack, but I think they're more of a tech piece play unit.
Yeah,
I do think
they can teleport around, right?
Yeah, and that's really nice, and they can get involved if they have to. You pick your fights with them, but they're just a bit too expensive. This is really controversial because a lot of people love him. I'm actually going to put. I don't think I should say he's bad. I just think he's vastly overrated, and that's Scarbrand, because if you took off his extra aura of benefit everyone, he's amazing. But once you put on that +1 attack aura, like, I've played against him 3 times, and all 3 times, Scarbrand's allowed me to kill the demon army faster. I know someone running Creations of Bile, and they're like, cool, my possessor run at Scarbrand because they want 6 attacks each. Like, when you're including a piece in your army that people want to get close to, like, that's not a good thing. Like, again, don't get me wrong, Scarbrand has a pretty amazing stat line. He ignores invuns with his attacks, and his damage is nuts. Like, he can pick up a lot of things in the game. Like, he's one of the only things that can walk into the Silent King with the Menhirs and pick it all up in one combat phase. But yeah, I just think he the buffs he gives out just makes him just
it's a bit of a double-edged sword for Scarbrand.
I just think I'm just from my opinion, like I don't think he's bad. I just don't think he's on the level like that everyone says he is just because of them extra buffs. What else? I don't know. I don't think there's much in the book that's bad.
How about where the chariots fit in? Because I thought the chariots looked quite fun.
So do you know what? And if it wasn't for a case, one of the only things I don't have a lot of is chariots. Like I have at least 1 to 2 of every chariot, but I don't have a lot. And I've said to the other half, like, because she takes an interest in it all as well.
Yeah.
And she looked at my chariots and goes, "Oh, run an army of them." And I said I would love to, but I ain't got 200, 250 quid to go spunk on a list, you know.
Yeah.
But yes, I think the chariots are good. I think burning chariots are very good. I think Fate Skimmers are good. I think the Celesti Heralds and chariots are good. The Hell Flares, the Celesti Hell Flare chariots are decent. They're very good. Even the Corn chariots, like Skull Cannons, you know, they're a platform that has a fairly decent gun that can also punch quite hard and is actually not that, you know, they're quite tough. T7 with the 4+ save and 9 wounds, you know, it's nothing to sniff at. And the guy, the Herald, the Renmaster on the Blood Throne, you know, he's actually quite tasty. Like he can punch quite well. So I actually think there is a chariot list there that can work. It's just for the people that have that many chariots. Like I could probably field 2 Fate Skimmers and 2 Burning Chariots, and 3 of the Celesti chariots, and then 1 of the Corn ones. So not quite as much as I want, but yes, I think there is a list there. Which I don't think is top tier, but I think it can definitely run into a lot of armies that give it a lot of issues. But there's not much in the book I would look at and say, you know, that's bad. There is a lot in the book I would look at and go, that needs a points drop.
Yeah, I think that might be the thing, and I wonder whether it feels like at the moment Demons lists literally need every single thing they've got in them. Like there's no room for playing around because you need the incision, you need the mission plan, you need
something, and that's why I'm not keen on
if points drop, if points adjust and drop a little bit, you might find that bit of leeway for like a tech piece unit or two that people will actually open it up. But until the infantry is cheaper, you're not going to see that, right?
Yeah, so I think that's my issue. Like a lot of people like Lee, like he's been saying like, he was taking Nurglings, and he said this weekend, you know, they were okay. Like they had some uses in games where you're like, oh, they've scored me a point or whatever, but he looked and went, they're not that good. They're okay.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like they're one of those units that you take if, like you said, a tech piece unit.
Yeah.
I just think at the moment, you know, you've got to really make sure that every unit is doing something. And when you're taking Flamers, Bloodletters, Demonettes, like I am with the characters, every unit has a job. It's not just a chaff piece. Like
quite lean lists at the moment.
Yeah. So I think at the moment, because I have a lot of people that say to me like, "Oh, I feel like your list is missing 1 or 2 units." I'm like, I agree, but it's quite a fine fix because you don't want to up Flamers and then lower a lot of the other units, and then you're in the same spot. Like Flamers go up to 85 points a model, but you drop enough points where you can still take the exact same list. Like you've got to. I think maybe, as much as I don't want to go with it, I think a lot of people have said it to me, and the more I look at it, the more I agree that the Flamer change maybe has to also be a bit of a stat change. Maybe the amount of shots or something, I don't know. But at the moment, it feels like they need to do drops, but if they raise Flamers and drop everything else, you know...
Yeah, you're not going to gain
nothing
that
changes,
space.
You know, nothing changes, so...
No, it'd be interesting to see, and I'm optimistic. I think it'll be good to see a couple of drops and adjustments that allow other elements of the book to come out, and that's something maybe we can keep an eye on for the future. I guess my final question before we wrap up was the faction specific resource for you guys is obviously the Warp Storm table and warp points. And I guess I'm curious, now you've had a whole run of games with them, how big of a deal are these? Are these a useful tool? What sorts of ones do you find yourself coming back to? How much do they add to the competitive game?
For me, I've actually found them to be quite big, quite massive.
Okay.
So, obviously, I was doing what a lot of people were doing when the book first came out, taking Bellicon as Supreme Command to unlock them all. Unfortunately, they made it clear that that's not what he does, which I don't think was I don't think that was a necessarily change. I don't think they had to do that, but it is what it is. No. So it opens up a Warlord slot at least, I guess. So but so I find the -1 to hit outside of 12 inches actually has been quite massive. Because because I've had a unit of Demonettes be hit by Custodians at the shooting phase 12 inches away and shrug off a lot of it because of the -1 on the hit. So that's a really good one. The extra leadership debuff is really good for your bringing units in, especially for Bellicor, because it makes him -3, you know.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest ones, so I'm taking a Khorne patrol, so I'm unlocking the Khorne ones. They're the only ones I'm unlocking at the moment, because I think the Khorne ones are the best. +1 attack on Bloodletters is huge, and the amount of times I've gone, if I didn't have the +1 attack, I never would have killed that. So that is huge. And the no fallbacks on a 4+ within Khorne. Again, I've gone up against a tower list and just trapped like 5, 6, 7 units with it and stopped four of the units falling out. So
that's massive.
Like I think the Sinesh one isn't bad as well. +1 the charge is not a bad thing. Fights first on all your Sinesh stuff is not a bad thing either. I do think Khorne is probably the best one overall. But I think people sleep on it a little bit. And then you can take loads of ways to get like Gaze of Fate to like retain to when you have them turns where you don't spend. But I found that I'm not gonna say they're game making, but I've found that there are some times where like if I didn't have them extra attacks from the Khorne ability, you know, that unit would have survived because I rolled a bit poorly or whatever, or you had good saves or whatever. So I think it is quite random still, which is, you know, thematic wise, it is very good. Like that is what you would expect from Demons. You know, it's the warp. Like it is random, but I would like to have had something similar to the old warp from table from 6th and 7th, where it was more of a table that it just progressed as the game went on. So it's like the storm starts here, and then as the game goes on, it gets, you know, more involved in the game and more abilities happen. But I think they kept it quite fluffy. Like I get quite lucky with my warp, so I generally roll really well, 4 to 5 points a turn, sometimes 6, and I get the 3-point turns, which isn't bad, but you can roll 1 or 2 points, and then you're like, cool, I can't do nothing. But then you get I've had quite a few turns where I've rolled 7, and like that's a couple abilities, like, and then so I like the warps on the table. I think it's cool. I tend to find that there are turns where it just doesn't come into play. Generally, the first and the last turn. But I've also had a lot of my games where turn 3, turn 4, or turn 2, turn 3, or whatever. That I'm like, really I need the abilities, and it's really nice to have. And like I do think maybe there are some abilities in that are 1 point too expensive, because at the moment it's you use 1 a turn because it's too expensive to get.
So maybe the internal costing could be adjusted.
But I don't think it's a thing that they have to deal with. Maybe just something for the future. But compared to some armies, you know, gimmicky, you know, army-wide ability, you know, I think it could be better, but I also think it could be a lot worse. I like it overall. I think it's very thematic. And like I said, it's not like I never feel like it's just there. I have to do it, but it doesn't really affect me. Like I've had it where I feel like that has really swung games. So, yeah, it's got its uses, definitely.
Great. No, that's cool. And as I say, I think there's a few nice tools in there. I agree with you. I think some of the ones in the Khorne set are amazing. And
Khorne one is
you kind of have to build. I say without Bellicor in the Supreme Command, you have to build to unlock maybe 1 or 2 of them. But there's some very cool stuff in there, and it can turn games at particular moments.
And you've got to have enough units to benefit from it. Like if you're taking one unit of Bloodletters, you know,
you're not going to feel it.
30 Bloodletters and Bellicor, you know, you're going to benefit from it. If you're taking 60 Demonettes and Bellicor and a Keeper, you're going to benefit from the Slash one. Like, you've got to take enough units to benefit from it. And obviously, you always get the undivided ones, so everything benefits from the undivided ones. But yeah, you can play into it. And it is something that you can really play to and actually make it affect your games as well.
Great. No, well, I think that's the thing, and that sounds like and feels like that's the nature of the book in general. Is that you know if you're willing to build and carve things out and look into it and work out builds in particular directions, there's some really cool stuff you can do. And so I think it's a great time to play Demons. It sounds like there's lots to get out there and do. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of them over Nephilim and into the subsequent new packs as well. So it's a great time for you. I hope you continue taking names and taking some events out and having fun as true Demon Lord.
Yes.
And thank you very, very much for coming on and chatting to us as well. It's been a really good time. And if you want to check Franco out, go and have a look at his True Demon Lord blog. And you know, I'd say get out there and play Demons, because it's a great time to be on the side of chaos. Go and strike some fear into your enemies' hearts. So thanks very much for tuning in, guys, and we will see you all again next time. Bye-bye.